This is Food Talk for Health. Here is your host, Tonia King.
Thanks for joining me today. On Food Talk for Health, we explore practical nutrition tips, how real food and lifestyle can really heal, prevent disease, and help boost energy. Each episode features passionate guests sharing their knowledge to help you eat better, feel better, and live healthier. Hope you'll subscribe to the podcast and share it with someone else who might benefit. Joining me today is Jamie Hope, founder of Methyl-Life. How are you today, Jamie?
I'm great. Thank you.
Tell me about Methyl-Life. What does your company do?
Yeah, so we specialize in methylation nutrients and particularly kind of that core hero nutrient, methylfolate, which is really at the crux and core of vitality and life. And it is the most activated form of folate, the bioactive form in your body, and it's the only form that can actually do those big important downstream tasks like make neurotransmitters for healthy mood, like balance homocysteine levels and reduce those, keep them under control so that you have good cardiovascular health. Cognition really helps with that, helps with prenatal health and neural tube development. So it's just really kind of at the fundamental core of vitality. And a lot of times it has to get around something called MTHFR. And we kind of specialize in helping people understand more about that and get a protocol that would work well for them.
So the MTHFR is a gene. How does our body use it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's a gene that we all have, and what it's doing is it's making an enzyme, and that enzyme's sole job and responsibility is basically to convert the folate that we ingest or eat and turn it into the folate that our body can actually use and do those downstream steps I was talking about, really helping with RNA and DNA synthesis and detoxification. One of our body's greatest antioxidants is kind of getting promoted and kicked off by using that activated form of folate. Blood health is really important. So anemia, a lot of times people think that's tied directly to iron and really iron only, but a lot of that has to do with methylfolate, the right form of folate, and the right forms of B12. So energy, sleep, all these things really are tied to this correct bioactive form of folate that really this MTHFR gene is responsible for making for us.
It's not something that we would even realize that we have a problem with. How would you know anything about how that gene is working in your body? Is it all through blood work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, for those of us that have trouble with it, right? If you are getting blood tests and you're seeing yourself borderline anemic or you are anemic, right? You might be having an issue with this. If you are encountering pregnancy loss, right? That might be a telling factor. If you have significant depression, that might also be a telling factor. You're missing some key aspects of what that methylfolate has to do in the body in order to make those parts work. If you have some significant cardiovascular issues, your family history, or you tend towards maybe stroke or heart attack or deep vein thrombosis or some of these other events, right? That can be related to high homocysteine, which is directly related to cardiovascular health and can be directly related to cardiovascular events or episodes. So it really is fundamentally at the core, and we don't really know, right, that it doesn't feel like something's wrong. This is our genetic code, and this is how our bodies always worked for us. So we don't necessarily have a big understanding of that until we come up against some of these challenging symptoms or problems in our lives. And some of us hit these earlier rather than later. Some of us, run into a traumatic event that kind of kicks those off. Or some of us have extreme stress that, fires some of that off. So, yeah, it's really something that You can get a blood test to learn about whether or not you have MTHFR, but understanding the impact of that genetic result is much more nuanced and much more challenging because it has to be interpreted along with symptoms, other genes, other nutrient sufficiencies or insufficiencies in the body.
Is it common, do you think, for health practitioners to understand how it works in our body and maybe actually think about, testing you for it?
I think it's really not common. And I think it's because practitioners don't really understand fully what MTHFR does or how it works. I think in our medical world, specifically in Western medicine, we are looking more at how to diagnose disease. And so we're looking to take blood tests that figure out if you have a particular known disease. We're not so proactive about looking at genetics to try to see, hey, do you have genetics that could be faulty or be problematic and kind of move you towards an aspect of disease down the line if we don't get it corrected. So if you had many miscarriages, for example, you might then be potentially tested for MTHFR. If you had major depressive disorder and were not responding to medications, you might have a psychiatrist test you for MTHFR. Those are pretty extreme cases,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people have sort of a version of MTHFR that might be affecting their life, even if it's not in such an extreme way. So there's lots of things I think that could be done to help our health if we get the right supplementation on board, but I don't think our Western medicine system is really set up to work with nutrients, right? They're set up to kind of work with disease and work with medications. And there's a bit of a economic, I think, play in that whole system as well. Uh, Supplements and nutrients aren't very lucrative in
Right,
general.
right,
So,
right.
yeah.
Well, I know B vitamins, methyl is in B vitamins. Is it in a lot of other supplements?
So it's mainly in the ones that we think of in the B vitamin category. I mean, there's betaine, which is TMG, and it used to be considered a B vitamin. It's no longer like an essential B, but that kind of plays into the methylation world. There are supporters, certainly, like cofactors that are really helpful for the body. So choline, zinc, magnesium. But some of the big heavy hitters really are in the B category. NAC is an unusual one that most people don't really think about, and it's not directly a methylator per se, but it's a really big helper of methylating nutrients in that it will help boost intracellular glutathione.
Hmm.
And by doing that, that's what your methylfolate is really trying to kick off to get your detoxification processes going. And so that's a really big helper, but it doesn't necessarily land in the B category, but a lot of them do land in the B category.
Can we get too much of methyl in vitamins?
Yeah, I absolutely think that that's true. And I think of it a little bit like it's a river and a dam, or it's a highway that's got some traffic backups, right? Lane
Hmm.
closures. So you've got a pathway that's going, and whoa, we have mutations on this pathway. So now that pathway might be significantly restricted, causing a big backup. Well, another part of your genetics, right, might have a downstream wide open, lots of stuff running through it. Uh, if you move the backup by giving methyls in one area, then you might jam and dam up a backup in another area.
And how do you know? You get a bottle of methyl B vitamins. Is there a quantity that is acceptable?
Yeah, so it's such a great question because right now people are suggesting these methyl vitamins for different things, right? So and they're very useful for the right thing in the right person. So 15 milligrams is a studied dose that is therapeutic for people that deal with depression, and it really works. And at the same time, 15 milligrams is a lot of methylfolate. And so that's not great for everyone. If somebody who doesn't need a lot of methylation takes 15 milligrams, they might start having heart palpitations, like they're getting really jittery or kind of aggressive or irritated or angsty. And so it might mean that they've got too much methyl going on that is overstimulating them. And so I think you touch on a point that's so key, and that is that our genetics are so individual to each of us. And if we look at just one gene in isolation and try to supplement for just one gene in isolation, I think we cause real challenges in the body. And so if we're listening to social media and we're on a fad and they say, oh, take this amount here, right? And we take that amount and it doesn't work for us, then we may walk away from methyl forever, right? If you try methylfolate
Right.
15, it's too much for you. You might walk away from it forever. You might have just needed like 2 milligrams and the active B12 and a couple of the cofactors to go with it. And that might change your life in terms of how your quality of life is able to reflect in your health. But I think the key there is listening to our bodies and trying to figure out how much is the right amount, because it's not, I don't think it's as precise as dialing in a drug because we're all so biologically different. If you're getting an antibiotic, you know that it takes a certain amount of that antibiotic to kill whatever it is that's in the body. Well, with the nutrient support, you don't know exactly how much you need, even if you have the same, let's imagine you have the exact same MTHFR mutation that I do, right?
Right.
You might have a whole lot of different mutations, or I might have a whole lot of different mutations that are doing different things. And so as they interact with MTHFR, you might react totally differently to the vitamin or nutrient subset, right? The
Right.
protocol than I would. And so that's where I think we have to really pay attention to what our body's doing because the science isn't there yet. We haven't mapped out everything. We don't know all the details. So even if we have tests, even if we have studies that say certain amounts work, it's not clear cut across the board for everyone yet.
Boy, genetics can be really complicated, right?
Super tricky, super
Wow.
tricky. And yeah.
We are talking with Jamie Hope, founder of Methyl-Life. So, what does Methyl-Life produce that is available to the public?
So we have a great form of methylfolate called cerebrofolate, and this is the bioidentical form that was used in the studies. So pharmacologically, there is a medical foods category, right? It's not a drug category, but it's kind of nutrition category. And so the methylfolate that was tested in this category and used in supplements like, actually not supplements, pharmaceuticals, Deplin, Meta-NX, Cerefolin. These are all things that you can get. Cerefolin is for Alzheimer's or dementia. Meta-NX is for peripheral neuropathy. And these are all methyl nutrient products. And Deplin is specifically for depression. So our methylfolate is a version that is identical to the one that's used in the pharmaceuticals, but when we tested it up against the stuff that's used in the supplement world, there's quatropholic is more used there, and then metafolin is used in the pharmaceuticals. So it's that calcium type I molecule, super stable. It's been tested. It's got lots of studies. And we have found that our version is more pure and more potent. We did a 90-day keep it out in the open environment against, and we tested it against 4 or 5 different methylfolate types, and ours showed up as most pure, most potent, held its stability over time in comparison to all the others. And so we feel like we've got a really solid product, but we also have really that education piece, right? We've been here since 2011. We are not trying to do the fly-by-night, build an AI website and try to sell a product, right? That's not what we're here for.
That's great to hear.
We want you to get the right stuff, right? We want to make sure that what you find works for you, because really our mission and goal is about your quality of life and enhancing that for you. That's where methylated nutrients changed my life. And I went to doctors ad nauseum, and I couldn't find people to help until we got the right form of these nutrients on board, and it just changed my life. And I want to help people find the right things for them. And it may not always be my products, right? It might be that they need less methyl, or they need some, but if they're not educated, they won't know. So we're trying to get as much information out there as possible and help in the best way we can.
I think that's great. Can our diet provide the nutrients that we need to help along with all of this?
So this is a really great question, and I think our diet absolutely helps, right? The misconception I think people have is, well, if I eat good, clean, folate-rich foods, can I get methylated that way? And can I just work around my MTHFR gene defect in that way? And really the answer to that is no. There's the food folate that we get from folate-rich foods is really not in the methyl form. And so if you have an MTHFR variant that doesn't allow you to convert that, it doesn't matter how much folate-rich food you get, you're not able to make the forms that are, helping with the mood, helping with the cardiovascular health, helping with the prenatal health, the sleep, the detox, all of that. So you're getting a form of folate, but you're not being able to convert all of it correctly. And so then the effectiveness for your body, it really just needs a level of supplementation. And I think that's why, they ended up creating the pharmacological forms, the medical foods for methylfolate. And that's really how it came out. You couldn't actually supplement with it in the beginning. It was originally a medical food deemed only as a pharmaceutical.
Medical foods. Haven't heard that term before. Jamie, how do we find you on social media or find out more about Methyl-Life?
Yeah, so we are at methyl-life.com, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and I think we're on TikTok and a few other things. So yeah, we are out there. We've got good information. We're really working hard to put more behind our blog. So it's not just good information that you read, but that you can kind of listen. You can look at infographics if that helps your learning style. We've got short videos that we're trying to build into those blogs so that it's really a more robust learning opportunity for people who just learn in different ways.
It sounds quite exciting, and it sounds like you are really able to help a lot of people. Thank you so much for your time today and all the knowledge that you shared.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being a part of your podcast here today.
I'm Tonia King. Thanks for listening to Food Talk for Health today. If you like what you hear, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'd love it if you'd leave a rating or a review so that others can discover the show as well. And be sure to share with someone who might benefit. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Food Talk for Health is produced by Creative Voice and Media. Our theme was written and performed by Rick King. Thanks for listening to Food Talk for Health.